Hello, everyone. This is Cassie Hagan, Director of Professional Development at Wabash College. I wanted to share some general job search tips with you. I am going to record this session so that we can share this with you later if you're not able to join us live today. And of course, if you have any questions, you can follow up with me by email. So with that, I'm going to get started. Want to start with just a quick check-in. For the purpose of the recording, we will zoom past this a little bit, but some questions that you can ask yourself just as a little bit of a self check-in. How's your job search going? What's working well for you? What's not going so well? What are the roadblocks that you keep running into? So if you're a little bit further into your search and you notice that you keep bumping up into the spot where you're securing interviews, but you're not getting past the first round, that tells us specifically what we might need to focus on in our job search, right? Or perhaps you're applying to a lot of positions, but you're not hearing back. Again, doing a little bit of a check-in with yourself to identify what exactly is it that you're running into as a roadblock in your search can be really helpful. So think about that. What resources do you need? And what questions do you have for me? All right, the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is the general strategy for your job search. I think it's really important to find a balance, but considering the quality of the applications that you're putting out over the quantity of the applications that you're putting out. We talk a lot about tailoring the resume, and so I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what we actually mean by that today. But consider, that balance might not be the same for everyone, but it's a numbers game. You are going to have to apply for more positions than you are going to get offers for, which means that the process can feel very daunting. So if you've been at it for a little while with your job search and you're just not getting the results that you're looking for, we might need to think a little bit about what that balance between quality and quantity looks like for you. One thing that's really important as well is to keep your search really organized. So we have a really handy template that I think is a good way just to kind of see on paper, digitally on paper, what it is that you've actually accomplished so far and what else you could still be doing to maximize the time that you've already put into each of those job applications. Again, the process by nature is going to be somewhat daunting because statistically you are going to apply for more positions than you hear back from, certainly more than you get an interview for, and absolutely more than you get an offer for. So also I think organizing your search is a helpful way to stay mentally ahead of the game that just naturally is going to include some rejection. And we can take a little bit closer look at that, but you can find that job search organization template in your Handshake account. So if you need a reminder, you can go to wabash.edu/careers. And on the student section, you can find the link to log into your Handshake account. If you have any issues logging in, you can contact the Career Services Office, career@wabash.edu. But once you get into your Handshake account, you can navigate by going to the Career Center, resources, and then job and internship search template will bring you to this screen. And here you can find a document that you can download to get started. Within the template, you will see what looks like a really basic spreadsheet. The important thing is how you use this. So we're going to start with the really basic parts. You've identified a position that you would like to apply for. So we're going to go ahead and record the name of the company or organization and the title of the position that you're applying for. If you haven't started the application yet and you see that there is a specific deadline listed, it's important to go ahead and include that to help you as you use this document to manage your time. And once you've applied, you're going to update that with your application status. So when did you apply? Once you hear back from someone, when was the last time someone contacted you about the position? who was that person, keep track of their name and their contact information here so that you can follow up. And by tracking your application status, you'll have a record of when you heard from them last, so you know when it's appropriate to follow up. Additionally, then as you continue to work down the columns of each row, we've included space for you to track your networking work that you've done. So if you don't know anyone that works at that company, you don't have an inside connection, have you utilized the Wabash network to make new connections? If not within the Wabash network, then through other means of connecting with people. And keeping track of just, again, generally, what is the status? What are the action items that they gave you? Are there items that you need to follow up with them on? Did they let you know when to expect to hear about what the next round of interviews looks like, or when you might hear a decision about your offer, and so on and so forth? Or perhaps you need to keep track of when you've received an offer, when do you need to make a decision and inform the employer of that decision by. So a general way to approach using this template as well is to sort of work down column A as far as you can. And when you get to a point that you need to, then you start to work across and fill in. And so it's just sort of down and across, down and across. You identify the positions that you're going to apply for, you submit those applications, and then continue to look for people that can help you from a networking standpoint inside the organization. When you get to a point that you can't do anything more on that row, then it's time to go to the bottom and add a couple of more positions that you've identified that you're looking for. Within this, you could set some personal goals, like we talked about, the quality versus the quantity, depending on whether maybe you're attacking your job search like it's your full-time job, or maybe you're working a part-time job right now or a temporary position while you continue to search. Set a goal for how many positions a week are you going to apply for. So spend some time this week looking for what are the next jobs I'm going to apply for, update your spreadsheet. Spend some time applying for those jobs, update the spreadsheet. Once you've submitted your applications, you get across a couple more rows, can you go back up and follow up with people? So before I add more jobs to the list, have I done everything I can to maximize the effort that I've already put into? I spent a lot of time tailoring my resume and making sure it was perfect for that position. I'm really interested. I did the work to make some connections. I haven't heard anything. Okay, great. Let's go back up to that position and send a follow-up note to the recruiter. Check in with your connection that you made. Maybe you found an alum that works at that organization, or you have someone else in your network that has some inside knowledge. Take a moment to update them on your status. Let them know that you've submitted your application, you made it through the first round interview, you're waiting to hear back. Thank them for helping you with whatever they might have done so far. So again, you're just going to kind of work down and over, down and over. And as far as like the cadence of that, I think it just depends on your particular situation, but we want to be mindful that it's a quality over quantity of applications game. All right, tailoring your resume. So you can take a look, again, wabash.edu/careers/students. There you can find the upperclassmen resume guide, as well as a bunch of other resources that can be really helpful during your job search. So as a reminder, those are all on the website there. You want to start by making sure that everything on your resume is completely up to date. Did you update your final GPA? Our general recommendation for that is that if it's a 3.0 or higher, that you include it on your resume. Sometimes leaving it off your resume, someone would assume that it's not good enough to be on there. So you may give various and varying opinions about what that exact cutoff should be, but generally we go with 3.0. So 3.0 out of 4.0 or higher, include it on your resume. If below 3.0, that may not be the talking point that you want to include. Generally, we want you to think about the profile of your resume as a thesis statement, and all of the additional information on your resume should be supporting evidence for that thesis statement. And I'll show you some examples of what that looks like. Keep in mind that, especially if you're going to be applying for positions that vary in nature, you may want to edit your resume differently for different types of positions. I think it's good to specifically tailor your resume, not just for the type, but for the exact position that you're applying for. And that's really the key for the quality versus quantity in job applications. But it's okay to keep one longer Word document that you can edit up in different ways. So you may choose to highlight different things about your experiences for different positions. So here you can see one of our upperclassmen resume examples. This is one of the ones that you can find on the Career Services resources page. But here's a little bit to illustrate the concept of the profile being the thesis statement for your resume. So we're going to choose 2 or 3 things about yourself that you would most like to highlight. If you get the chance to let someone know only 2 or 3 of your best qualities or experiences that are the most relevant for the position you're applying for, what would those be? And how do we represent them here so that it catches the reader's attention right at the beginning? We know that when someone is reviewing a high quantity of resumes for any particular position, they're not going to read every word on the page. And so the formatting and the way that you edit that content is very important in grabbing the reader's attention off the top. One of the things that will really make a resume stand out in the batch is how well you connect these things that you highlight in your profile to the actual experiences that you've had. So whether it's something that you did as part of your educational experience or experiences that you had during your summer jobs, internships, on-campus student employment positions, or even in your extracurriculars, things that we would consider part of the professional development section. Maybe it's some self-taught skills that you learned on your own. Any of those things that might connect with what the employer is looking for, make sure that you find a place to put them on here, and that sort of you've connected those back to what are the highlights about yourself that you most want that employer to know about you. So the supporting evidence is really what makes the difference between what sounds like cliche things in a thesis or a resume profile that just sound like something you thought would look good on a resume versus things that you can actually demonstrate that you've done. Another way to think about how you're going to tailor the resume for the position that you're applying for is to look at the job description of the position you're interested in and imagine a question mark at the end of each one of the items that they're looking for. A lot of times the job description will be in a bulleted format like this example. And so you can literally think of a question mark at each one of those bullet points. Are you career-minded with a focus on sales? Well, if you have experience working in sales, or you can demonstrate that you're career-minded, now you go back to your resume and figure out which of your experiences can you use to highlight that you do have that quality. And so this is where it comes into that you may be saying something different about the same internship on one application than you would to submit it for another, because you're trying to highlight different things about the experiences. I think everyone in the Wabash network knows that we place a lot of importance on networking, and often that can make the difference between getting your resume through the first round of an application cycle. So we do want to make sure that you know how to use a couple of these resources, at least on a basic level. The alumni network should at least be part of your strategy. If you are fortunate enough to have access to other professional networks, absolutely, you should use those as well. Join the Wabash College Professional Development Group on LinkedIn, and you can create a post within the group to introduce yourself. Let the alumni network know who you are, what your skills are, and what you're seeking right now. We've had others already do this in the group, so if you're not quite sure what that should look like, feel free to scroll through the existing posts and take a look at how other people have done that. This is also a really good time to follow up with your existing connections. So whether it's maybe alumni that you've met through your fraternity or a professional that you met during some sort of an event on campus or some former supervisor in an internship that you had. This is a really good time to follow up with those people and let them know where you are in your job search, what it is that you're looking for, how they could be helpful to you, and follow up with a thank you for things that they've done for you in the past. Sort of framing that as, you know, I just graduated and I'm thinking back to this experience that we had. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me or to mentor me in this position. I just wanted to follow up and let you know that I'm doing great. I'm looking for my first position post-graduation, because it's helpful for them to have your name top of mind and know how it is that they could help you. So at this point, I want to give you a quick look at how you can use LinkedIn to find those connections that might be useful. I'm going to start from the Wabash College page and then click on the Alumni tab. This is a really great tool when you consider that Wabash College has about 12,000 living alumni. We've got 9,441 connections within this network. Now, this does also include current students, but that's a really great number at free, easy access with all kinds of really useful filters right at your fingertips. So if I know that I'm applying for a position with a particular company and I don't know anyone who works there, this would be a good way to try to find a connection that is probably going to be receptive to having a student reach out to them or a recent graduate. So you can use this, these filters can be really helpful. So you could search by where they live. So if the most important thing in your search is finding something in your hometown or the location that you've already chosen that you're going to live in for whatever reason, you can start by narrowing down and seeing what alumni we have in that area. During your job search, the where they work feature might be the most useful. So I've used an example later in the deck for Salesforce. So we're going to use that as an example here as well. If I wanted to locate alumni who work at Salesforce, I can do so like this. One tip that I can give you is the reason that I clicked on this add button and typed in Salesforce here means that when you do that search, it's going to query it only against where the alumni in the network on LinkedIn have entered that as their current employer. If you search here in the general search bar, it's going to search for everything on their profile. So it may also include alumni who previously worked at Salesforce or have had some other connection with Salesforce but don't work there now. So this is a good place to start. Someone who's a former employee could still be a great connection, but I would probably start this way and see if we have connections doing it this way first. So if I scroll down, you can see the number of search results here. This brought me 15 results. That might be a great start. So of course I can click on these profiles and see a little bit more about their experience. If I wanted to see, what kind of first position did this person have to get to where they are, this is a great way to do that. I can look at their job titles and things to figure out who within the company is going to be the best connection for me to start with. But when I choose to connect, I am going to make sure to use the add a note feature. So I will show you a little bit more about how to do that in a few moments. But before we leave LinkedIn, I want to show you one other feature, and that's the Wabash College Professional Development Group. I highly recommend that any recent graduates, alumni, current students, this is a group that's created specifically for you to be able to share resources with one another and make connections regarding jobs and internships. So in the Career Services Office, of course, we receive a lot of leads from alumni and in some of our other recruiting partners about job leads. This is the place where we are going to post those in addition to Handshake. Handshake, we tend to post anything that is really relevant for current students, but today, since we're assuming our primary audience for this workshop is recent graduates, I want to point out that we're not going to post as many things for alumni in Handshake because we know that alumni are on LinkedIn. So be sure to join this group and keep an eye out if you're seeking employment or looking for new opportunities at any point. You can also see that alumni have joined the group and are sharing articles and general resources. Some are sharing their job leads directly with you here. Some send them to me and then I share them out for you here. And you can also find a thread where we've had a bunch of people, both alumni and students, already start introducing themselves. So you can browse through those and see if there are people there who would be interesting for you to connect with. But I also recommend that you do the same. When you join the group, you might have a brief waiting time for us to review that you are a member of the Wabash community and for us to admit you into the group. And then you can go in and create a post and introduce yourself. Tell the other members who you are, what you're looking for so that they know how they can help you. And if you have something that you can offer them as well, then you can offer that too. So from there, we will head back into the slide deck and talk a little bit more about the specifics of how you're going to add that note when you're trying to make a connection on LinkedIn. I have a really simple formula that I think can help. You have a limited number of characters, I believe 300. So it's about like the text of a tweet, right? It has to be very direct. So the three things that I'm going to recommend that you include for most likelihood that that connection request is received well is, first of all, mention that you're part of the Wabash network. More often than not, that will get you pretty far. Second of all, I think it's important to specifically include why you've chosen that person to connect with. LinkedIn can be a little bit like the digital version of going to an event and trying to collect as many business cards as you can. That's not very interesting to the person who's receiving the connection request. They're much more likely to be interested in why you're connecting with them if you specifically let them know why it is that you've chosen to connect with them and not that you've just gone on to LinkedIn and started connecting with every alumnus that will allow you to connect with them. So if you've chosen that person because they work at Salesforce, like in the example we just looked at, then you'd want to include that in the message here. And third is sort of a call to action. How is it that they can help you? The call to action should not be, can you hire me? But it could be, would you be willing to give me a few minutes of your time? A few minutes of someone's time is a pretty easy ask to say yes to. So, you want to be conscientious of what you're asking of the person you're connecting with and make it something reasonable and easy for them to accommodate. Here's an example of what that message might look like. Hi, Mr. Jackson. I've chosen to address him by his proper name, Mr. Jackson, because I'm assuming that we haven't met yet. Once he says, please call me by my first name, then that's appropriate. But being too informal in that greeting can be received as disrespectful from some alumni or any other professional. So just be mindful, err on the side of conservative until you've been asked to address them otherwise. I'm a recent Wabash graduate, so I right off the bat getting Wabash in there to show that I'm part of the Wabash network. I'm really interested in starting a career in finance and within a corporate setting. This person works in finance at Salesforce, and so I'm telling them why I've selected them to connect with. Would you be willing to give me 15 minutes of your time? making an easy call to action. How is it that this person can help me, and making it easy for them to say yes. I'd love to connect and learn about your experience working for Salesforce. Thank you, and sign it with your name and class year. A couple of additional tips for networking. Like I said, we're not coming right out of the gate asking for a job. Someone who doesn't know you is not going to be comfortable recommending you for a job at their company just because you are part of the Wabash network. If you ask for a job, you'll get advice. If you ask for advice, you may just get a job. It's not going to be immediate though. Also consider it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So again, it's important to follow up with the people in your connection and let them know that, the people in your network, and let them know that you're currently looking for a job. If you're not top of mind because they don't know you're searching for work, they're not going to be able to recommend you when things within their network come available. If you've let them know you're looking, when something comes up, they will think of you and think to make introductions or make connections in a way that's meaningful in your job search. And finally, I just want to point out a couple of additional resources. We talked a little bit about Handshake, but I will just re-emphasize that this is a great place to start your job search. You certainly I don't want to imply that this is the only place you should be searching for jobs. It depends a great deal on what type of work you're looking for and what is being used within that particular field or industry. However, Handshake is the place that our office is going to post any of the jobs that are connected to alumni that would be appropriate for current students and recent graduates. So as far as entry-level work, this first job search after Wabash, I do recommend that you at least check Handshake, as you're working through that spreadsheet template and identifying positions that you want to apply for. You can find anything that is a resume referral to an alumnus or otherwise an alumni connected position in Handshake. So you're sort of leveraging the network upfront when you use this as one of the sites that you're going to search for positions on. LinkedIn is also a great choice because the quality of the positions tend to be pretty good. And there are some built-in networking features. So if you're looking at a position, again, we'll use Salesforce as the example. You can click on the company to go to the company page, and it's automatically going to show you what alumni we have working at that company. So some of those sort of smart ways that it integrates your network with the position that you're applying for are really useful. There are certainly lots of other job search sites out there that you could use. Some of those are free for employers to post jobs on, and therefore can attract some of the less desirable, perhaps even spam types of job postings. So just be mindful about where you're putting your personal information out. And again, here's another benefit of utilizing some sort of a job search tool is if I know where I've applied, if someone contacts me about a position I have not applied for, I should be asking some good questions. So just be guarded with your personal information. You want to put yourself out there and show that you're open to work, but you also don't want to put yourself in a position to perhaps be approached by less than reputable companies. And again, if you need a resume review after you make your updates, if you want someone in the office to take a look at that and provide some feedback, you can send your resume preferably as a Word document so that we can leave comments in the document for you to career@wabash.edu. And be sure to review the wabash.edu/careers/students page of our website, where we have all kinds of resume and cover letter guides, interview guide with lots of tips, and also some resources that we subscribe to for our students and alumni to be able to use for free. One of those is called Big Interview, which is a great place to practice your interviews. You can choose some industry specific sets of questions to practice with. You can record yourself in a Zoom type situation, play it back, and sort of critique yourself just like you might record yourself practicing for a speech. You can find links to some of those other types of resources Firsthand is another one that we subscribe to for you. It's previously been called Vault, so you might be more familiar with the name Vault. You can see that as Firsthand now, but you'll see that much of the resources are the exact same content that they've always been. Lots of industry and career specific guides, really helpful company list as you're thinking about places that you might want to work. If the organization is more important than the job title to you, you can look at some ranking lists about some of the best places to work based on different kinds of criteria that might be important to you. And you can also do research about different types of positions or career paths through Firsthand. So highly recommend that you check those out. We also have a resource called InterStride that is specific to international students. So that's one of the specialty ones that you can utilize. I hope that this information has been helpful in a general way. Please know that you can always reach out to us to set up a one-on-one career advising appointment, even now that you may be off campus. We're happy to conduct those by Zoom, answer questions by email, or if you find that you're able to get to campus, we are here all summer, just normal business hours as always. So an appointment is appreciated. Give us a heads up that you're going to be around and we'd be happy to work you in. If you have any questions after the session today, please feel free to reach out to me at Hagan, Haganc @wabash.edu, or send general questions to career@wabash.edu. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to connecting. Good luck to everyone as you continue your job searches, and let us know how we can be helpful. Have a great day.